Good evening, I'm Paul Heinert.
And I'm Jennifer Hudspeth. Thanks for joining us. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, some breaking news. 40 years after his run for the presidency, George McGovern has entered hospice care in Sioux Falls. Robert's attorney says representing his client was a challenge, not because Robert was a difficult client, but because Robert felt he deserved to be executed. So basically, you're telling us that we're going to want to make sure we've got plenty of fans handy and our air conditioning running on high?
Running on high. And
this is a Decision 2012 election update from KDLT News.
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Hudspeth.
And I'm Tom Hansen. You're watching KDLT's coverage of the 2012 election.
We'll be with you throughout the night to keep you up to date on all of the local races. Now, here are the numbers so far in the House race. There was a lot of talk early on in the game about you possibly being a vice presidential candidate. Has that really shaped how you're viewing the race tonight at all? A former Wisconsin man is now officially charged with murdering his 3 daughters in their River Falls home Tuesday. In the race for the White House, both presidential candidates were in Virginia, once a Republican state that swung into President Obama's column last time and could be up for grabs now. Redshirting is a growing trend for parents who start their child in kindergarten at age 6 instead of the traditional age 5. But the big question for parents is, does it actually help a child succeed? Scott McGee has the story. I'm joined now by 2 icons of the Today Show, Tom Brokaw and Jane Pauley. 60 years, can you guys believe it? We first ran this story yesterday about a 14-year-old boy who was arrested for driving drunk near Mount Vernon. Mark joins us now with sports, and Mark, you get to meet some pretty incredible athletes, but I've got to imagine it's really, really neat to meet people who are both athletes and inspiring at the same time. Yeah. Regardless of your age, registering to vote is really pretty simple. You can go to your county auditor's office, or even easier, take a seat behind your computer. In the handwritten note, Robert asks Jack Lee to take action during the next legislative session. Robert states in the letter that he has an idea that could help victims and their families get swift justice. In a letter dated October 8th, exactly 1 week before he would die by lethal injection, Eric Robert begins by saying thank you. In some of his final words, he commends the prosecutor for his professionalism during the case and says they agreed on the main focus, that his actions deserve the death penalty. Robert goes on to write, quote, "I do not want to or desire to die. Instead, I deserve to die. This I have always stated." As the letter continues, Robert's thoughts are poured out on paper. He tells Jack Lee he does not have Jack Lee's expertise of the law, but says as a layman, he feels changes need to be made to the death penalty statute. In the letter, Robert talks about the mandatory review of the case, which was conducted by the Supreme Court. The letter states he was not happy with how long the process took, a sentiment he shared with his attorney, Mark Cady.
There were times I think he was a little tense when the Supreme Court was doing things to delay things for their sentence review. But then once that was over, he is back to being calm, cool, and collected.
Robert did not appeal his sentence, and in the letter, he says he felt his review was handled the same way as an appeal. Instead, Robert proposes new language he feels would speed up the process. Robert concludes his letter by writing, "It's not about me or any future killers. It is about ensuring that in contested cases that the victims and their families get their intended and needed swift justice. Perhaps you could allow Lynette Johnson to help you propose this R.J. Johnson amendment to the legislature." Signing, sincerely, Eric Robert. Now, Marty, Jack Lee says because the letter is the thought process of Eric Robert, he doesn't plan to comment any further. A stuffed frog named Singapore Sam has become the center of their geography lessons as a special correspondent from Asia. So we think Mrs. Johnson and Singapore Sam are someone you should know.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
At St. Mary's Catholic School in Worthington, Minnesota, Hail Marys, the Lord's Prayer, and rosary beads are a regular part of each school day. And if you start to look around Mrs. Johnson's room, you'll notice frogs are everywhere. Not only are they the class mascot, but each week, students look forward to a special treat.
Hi, Missy.
From halfway around the world, Mrs. Johnson's niece, Melissa Sy, joins the conversation. But she's not alone. Students are eager to visit with the focus of their lesson, a frog named Singapore Sam.
How old is Singapore Sam?
He says he can't tell me.
Here's another frog from another country.
Through Skype, Melissa talks to students about Singapore Sam's adventures in Asia. And they take turns asking her questions about a country they're growing more familiar with.
Is there ice cream there?
From food to animals to transportation, Melissa and Singapore Sam provide plenty of answers, giving each child their undivided attention.
Some people have cars, but a lot of people take buses and trains and taxis too. Good question.
This is something outside of Worthington. You know, many of these kids are not going to leave Worthington. This is a great experience that they can see another culture and how other people live.
Now they're getting to kind of see it through the eyes of our little frogs. So it's cool. It's so different. It's unique and it's a great experience. I feel really lucky, really, really lucky.
And with each visit, the kids soak up more information.
It's so hot, and we decided it's so hot because Singapore is located close to the equator. Very good.
Knowledge they've gained with the help of a frog who's hopped into their lessons, making this classroom excited to learn.
Bye, you guys. Good
Melissa Saya spent the last 3 months in Singapore, and she'll be returning to the United States in the next 2 weeks. And she's already planning a trip to visit Mrs. Johnson's classroom along with Singapore Sam.